I'm so happy to be back to Buenos Aires after 4 years. Back then I was an Open News Fellow, and now I'm a media researcher working with the data science team at CHARTBEAT. So when we work with our clients around the world, we work with about 50,000 websites in different countries. Oftentimes they ask us, what do you think about platforms such as Facebook, Google, MSN, Yahoo News, etc., because they're eating up our traffic. Yes, that's true. The media landscape has been changing so fast, so dramatically. And it is time for us to learn from them and try to work better with them. So today I'm going to talk about how we could distribute our content better through platforms, build audience on those places away from our own websites. So now, when we talk about platforms, there are different kinds. There are search engines such as Google and Bing, social media like Facebook and Twitter and Talinga in Latin America, and also news aggregators such as Apple News, Yahoo News, Google News, etc. So these websites have become people's destinations by default. For instance, we used to, in the morning, we used to have a cup of coffee, then we open up some newspaper, and then, that's our habit. At night, we turn on TV and then watch news on TV. But now, younger people don't watch news on TV that often, and also in the morning, people may use Google News instead of a local print newspaper as their morning media habit. So today I want to talk about how we can work better with those platforms. I'll use some case studies around breaking news, which is from the Paris attacks in 2015 and also major events. That's the one from the UK. It's around the Brexit referendum. It's a scheduled event. It's not breaking, but the result was surprising. So we can also see some interesting results from that news event. So this number, 75%, is a very good illustration to show you that platforms are very important for us media people. This is the number that shows for each page view we get from outside our website. This is referred by platforms. That means for every 4 pages you got on your website, 3 of them were referred by platforms. And then who are they? So these are the top ones according to CHARTBEAT data. The way we work with our clients is we implement some code on our websites. For each interview, we can we monitor different measures such as how much time people spend on the page and then where they're from, such as Facebook or Talinga or Google. So these are the top 5. They're Google search in particular, Facebook, Twitter, Google News, and Yahoo News. So we can see that there are 3 types: search, social, and news aggregators. So according to our data, 40% is from Google search, and then 30% is from Facebook. So what does that mean? That means actually top 5 are actually just you need to care about the top 2, so which is search and social. So even though all those referrals are kind of like distracting people from own websites, but they serve different roles, they serve different needs, and people use them in different scenarios. I can give you examples in a minute. Oh, I see. Okay. So also, this is another interesting number for us, which is 62% traffic is on mobile. That means for every 5 page views, 3 of them happen on the mobile devices, right? It's Android or iPhone. So then you have to think about what's the number for your website, right? If many people are from mobile, you have to think about, is your website responsive, and do you have some strategy to distribute content on mobile devices. So this is another chart, actually 2 charts about devices. On the left, that is Facebook. On the right, that's Google. And then the pink color indicates the traffic from social. You can see that Facebook is mainly social. About 80% of the traffic happened on the phone. So that means when you try to distribute content on Facebook, you have to think, does it perform well on social? You know, can people see on the little screen? And then for Google, it's kind of evenly split on desktop and mobile. And then next, I'll talk about the different times for Facebook and Google. So this is a chart. On the left, that is Facebook. On the right, that is Google. And then different colors, again, indicate different devices. So what we want to focus on is actually total volume. So that's the total page views. The x-axis is the local time from midnight to another midnight, right? And this is local, no matter you're in Buenos Aires or Tokyo or London, this is all local. That means that's the morning, noon, and evening, even though the definition of your evening is slightly different from other people's, but still that's the local time. So here we have learned, if you look at the left chart, so it peaks around, let's say, 8 or 9. So that's the peak time. So we have this term called prime time. Prime time was used a lot by TV people. So this is a prime time show because at that moment, the rating was the highest. Now you have desktop, you have mobile phone, you have internet everywhere. It sounds like people can consume content anytime, anywhere. That is true. But still, you know, if you look at the crowd, when it happens, still prime time is in the evening. That's the moment people would consume some content, no matter news or entertainment, to wrap up their day. On the right, that is Google. You can see that the overall volume is kind of constant across the whole day. That means people may have some questions to ask the search engine anytime. In the day, maybe it's about your job. At night, maybe about entertainment. But people always have something to ask. That's why we see the traffic is quite constant, and except that the bedtime when people are asleep. So this is another interesting chart. It's kind of complicated. You know, let me walk you through. So the x-axis is day, every day. It's from November of 2015 to December of 2015, 2 months of data. And then each data point represent at that hour, you know, what that statistic is. And then the y-axis, you know, measures diversity. What we mean by diversity is how diverse the content people are consuming is. For instance, if all the people are consuming one piece of entertainment article, say Kim Kardashian's new clothes or makeup, so that's one article. It's not very diverse. But if people consume entertainment, hard news, like politics, economics, or sports, and cooking recipes all together, that's what we call diverse. So there are 3 colors. On the top, that is a yellow one. That's the diversity of traffic referred by Google. And the green one is referred by Facebook. And on the bottom, that's blue one referred by Twitter. So this is on the exponential scale. So you can see that the diversity referred by Facebook is about 10. And then that referred by Google is about 15. So the divide is about 4. But because exponential, that means the diversity referred by Google is about 16 times as that referred by Facebook. So think about it. Say, another example. One cat video has gone viral on Facebook. So that's just one piece. But people may have other questions about this cat, you know, the name of the cat, you know, the cat and food, and cat and litter, and cat house, and cat clothes, whatever. So that means people may have 16 questions about this cat. So that's why it's very diverse. The same thing, you know, would be applied to news content. So, and here you see, this is generally, you know, it's flat. You know, you can see some daily fluctuations, but this is generally flat. But we can zoom in. This is November 13, when the Paris attacks happened. So then you see that this is a big dip. You know, let's go back. So you see early November, that big dip. So usually, Google would refer more diverse content than Facebook and Twitter. But at that moment, you can see that they just drop altogether to the same level. So what does that mean? That means at that moment, the content people were consuming, just like a handful of them, maybe 2 articles, maybe 5 articles were being consumed at that moment. You know, as Albert said just now, you know, during the election night, people will go to the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, etc. for updates. At that moment, that means some smaller websites, some smaller publishers were, you know, kind of like forgotten for a moment. So that's the takeaway. For major events, generally people would go to major websites for updates. And not only they will go there directly, according to Facebook's and Google's algorithms, they will also be referred to those websites. So the takeaways are very interesting. Say, for a smaller newsroom, what would you do during those moments? Would you try to catch up just like other major newsrooms like the BBC and CNN and allocate a lot of resource to update? Or, you know, because if you understand your traffic will be kind of like eaten up by major websites, you may want to just keep your costs as low as possible. Just get some copies from wire services. But for bigger newsrooms like the New York Times, there's also a question to ask, because you know that people will be focusing on this major event, no matter that's election or the a Paris attack or a soccer game or Oscar award ceremony. You know that at a moment, few people will look at other content. That means if you have investigative pieces that you have spent a lot of time on, maybe for months, you don't want to publish them at that moment. So these are the takeaways for big and small newsrooms. So this shows another difference between search and social. So according to sociologists, after a disruptive event, such as terrorist attack, people mainly have two needs, among others. First is information, and second is emotional support. Information is, when it first happened, you overheard about it. At that moment, the information is scarce, people are panicking, but people would look for information desperately. So at that moment, search engines will be the destinations for people because people are searching for information proactively. And then after the story emerges, people got to know what has happened, and then people are are being shocked and surprised and depressed and upset, frustrated. And that's the moment people need to talk to each other and then to seek some emotional support from each other. So that means how you fit in those roles with our technologies. That means when people are searching for information, search engine will be used a lot. And so after people get the information, social media will come into play to, as a bridge between people, so that people can communicate over that tool. So this is another example, what ISIS really wants. This is a very, very long investigative piece published by The Atlantic in the spring of 2015. So the Paris attack happened in November of 2015, but this title kind of like is related to so many people. So when the attack happened, people would say, oh, what do those people really want? Why does ISIS have to do this to us? And then that article was surfaced by Google, which is again indicated by the yellow line. So immediately after attack, people will go to Google and say, hey, why? And then what has happened? So that you see this big peak indicated by the yellow line right after attack. But after almost a day, then you see this huge spike on Facebook indicated by the green line. That means, people were so shocked. People needed to talk to each other. So that's why, the traffic boomed on Facebook. People use this piece of article as a way to communicate. They may quote something from this article. This is why the ISIS, are doing this to us. So this is another difference, what search engine and social media would serve during those disruptive events. This is another example from the Brexit referendum in the UK. 3 columns and then the first one is how many articles have been published around one topic. So on the left, they are all topics. They are not single articles. So at CHARTBEAT, we have this infrastructure to cluster stories, just like what you've seen on Google News. For instance, this is a story all about Hurricane Harvey, and then this is all about the policy change. This is all about a car accident. So all the similar stories will be put together into one category. So then for each category, we have how many stories published, then we try to count. So on the bottom, that is 250. So that means the first category is referendums results come in. So on that topic, we have seen 250 stories. So that's the supply of news. And in the middle, that's the one type of consumption of news, which is the stories that perform well through search. And then the third column is the stories that perform well on social. So let's go through them. So generally, on the supply side, as we learned from journalism schools, you present facts, and then you give people updates. That's why if you look at the biggest supplies, it's around results come in, and then Labour Party split after votes. So this is like plain facts. But then if we move to search, so people may look more implications. So what happened if UK votes to leave, or the economic consequences? Some people may ask very detailed question like, can I use my driver license after this? And then we move on to the social platform. Then we can see that the best one is regrets and anger about the results. So what we have noticed again and again, stories with very strong emotions perform really well on social. That means no matter it's anger, regrets, say surprises, even happiness. If the emotions are strong enough, definitely they tend to go viral very easily. So that also means if you cover politics, economics, it's about cold facts and numbers. If you don't tweak the story for social media, generally they wouldn't go viral very easily. Then that's another question to talk about. So let's sum up. So now we have seen that our content has been distributed through different platforms. It's not like that you have a local newspaper, then you just deliver it to households, or your local TV station, people turn on TV, you just watch your, presenting news. That's not the case anymore. You compete not only with national and international media companies, but also, people have avoided you as kind of the entry to information. So that's the takeaway. But the second point is actually very encouraging. So out of every 10 page views, still 5 of them are from direct visits. That means those people don't need any proxies in order to visit your website. They're your best friends. They're your loyal readers. They go every day in the morning and night, go to your homepage and start reading news. So that means, so we have 5 from the direct and 2.5 from Google and 1.5 from Facebook. That means still, people, direct visitors are the majority of our audience. So why we talk about loyalty? Because, if once they're referred by Google and Facebook and they find your website very interesting, and then they will come directly, right? They don't rely on any proxies anymore. And then come back again and again, more and more often. Eventually, they will decide to subscribe. That's why there are, most valuable assets to publishers. Not only they will pay, but also they will read twice as much as non-subscribers. That means they also contribute more advertising dollars to publishers. So that's why, we have to think about how to use platforms to build our audience, but eventually we want them to be our loyal readers and convert them into subscribers. So this afternoon I'll run a workshop around these topics, but in more depth. If you like to discuss these topics, let's sit down and learn from each other together. Thank you.